they feel let down by him. So these people are not going to be easily persuaded to get involved. So we have to actively go out there and reach out to them and let them know that this is real and this involves people of all kinds of colors. This happened in the civil rights movement where black people felt let down by the white liberals that left them. They felt abandoned. And many minority groups feel abandoned every time they get on board with unity with other races. Eventually, once the goal is accomplished, those people break away and they're left with nothing. So I think we really need to come up with a plan to actively engage them and a way to actually, like you said, to really commit to keeping the promises and keeping a relationship.
I was just going to piggyback that the desire for that to happen, but then because it's already so hard to get folks out here, like that once they get here, that whoever's here, whatever this is ready for that too, right? Ready for either the dialogue or ready for because the worst part would be like organize to get folks out here, but then it's like it's not the kind of movement that historically have felt like have included people of color, right? And so then that could be even worse, right? Because you just brought out folks and it didn't work out. So I feel like there's still work. I don't know what that's like. I have no idea, but like that's also I'm curious to hear what folks think about like what work do we have to do with whatever that community here is to make sure that if folks organize it, it works, and people can have those conversations and keep wanting to come back and say, hey, you know what? I think actually they care for real. And so,
and I was gonna just actually ask that question pretty much because I hear, and I think we probably all have different roles in that, but I was gonna ask, what does that look like to transform and expand this so that like it actually truly represents the 99%? And I'm hearing like Margarito saying, I feel like the things I'm teasing out that are already happening are like, there's this caucus of indigenous and immigrant rights, immigrant justice kind of caucus. I'm hearing like outreach, which makes me think of the work that Occupy the Hood is doing in LA and probably folks elsewhere are doing. And then I'm also, for myself, I think about as a white person, as someone with white privilege, and when I come here, I see myself in a lot of people. I see a lot of white people, like, what are some of the things that I can do? So like having these conversations feels like part of this, but I want to pull out even more, like what can all of us do? And that might be different roles, but what does that look like so that we can actually build this as the 99%? And I would love to hear more ideas because this is juicy.
Now we know what this lunch is.
Footwork. You must travel into areas like South Phoenix, Maryville, Guadalupe, parts of Mesa. You just have to be there because when they see you there, it's real. If you're trying to send up somebody a Facebook message, it's not real. And it's great because Facebook and Twitter and the internet, the rest of the internet has started this movement. It got all of us that we're looking for something like this to get behind. Now, the people who aren't looking for this on the internet still don't know about it. So, most people have access to the internet. That's a fair assumption. But there's tons of people that go on there and are on parts of the internet that are completely clean of Occupy or economic justice. These people aren't necessarily knowledge seekers like the rest of us. So it's our job to educate. And really, I've been saying this to numerous people that this phase of the movement, it's really new, and it's education phase. Because there was 2,000 people here on October 15th, but there's almost 4 million people that live in the valley. That's 1% or less than 1%. So we really need to become teachers of this movement, and the more people that you speak with, regardless of race, wherever they are, those more people that you can inform that can be here and have their voice heard. Because it's important. It's important for everybody to have their voice heard as equals. And this is what this discussion is about. And please be teachers. Please.
I think that you're exactly right, and also face-to-face or personal organizing is the most effective method of organizing, and so I do think, you know, in terms of growing it, you know, we need to do direct outreach to those communities and also to people that we know. Sometimes most people have access to the internet, but sometimes people have access to it only on their cell phones. You know, it's a different way of finding things. It doesn't come immediately necessarily. And then, especially if you're not hooked into certain social networks already, you know, where your friends are already sharing it. But what I was saying, one of the things I've been doing, and I hope it's productive, but, you know, I've heard a lot of really messed up stuff, especially when they had the sort of religious message block nationalists over there.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of what?
Can you say what that is for folks that aren't familiar with that?
Well, okay, so they were a group of so white people get afraid of angry black folk, but these guys also had a religious message, you know.
The Black Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah, the Black Hebrew Israelites. So I was hearing things like, "I'm not white, you're not black, we're the same," and then the people would try to voice their, you know, opinions, and some of the religious message sort of may have detracted from other things. But, you know, I just had so much frustration with what was being said, and so, you know, I was trying to call out different elements of it that I thought were really offensive, you know, and then people ask questions and they're like, why is colorblindness bad, you know, and all this shit. But to me, it was really disturbing that, you know, I heard them referred to as being probably paid infiltrators or all this other bullshit, you know, and it's like, no, they just have a different message than what is already here, you know. And, you know, I had also people who were like, you know, they didn't understand any anger, you know. It comes down to, you know, are we violent, non-violent? Is any angry speech allowed? Is any profanity allowed? Is frustration allowed? Is that, you know, a part of, or is it just sort of a hippie joy thing? So, I mean, I think it brought up a lot of issues. I found it was kind of disturbing. The whole scenario was disturbing because basically there was a line between people, and there was, you know, the line was somewhat diverse between, but the back and forth was definitely white versus black, and the white people were saying some things that were hilariously tragic, you know, and then everybody still marginalized them, you know. And I still think, you know, they had a religious message that, you know, I didn't agree with, you know, but the limitations on anger, you know, also I think that people need to be, you know, calling people out, you know, on things. That was probably already discussed, and I'm sorry I left this and came back, but, you know, I think that there's a legitimate place for anger. That in Phoenix, you know, I used to be more organizing in LA, and I was organizing in South Central, and I was like working in Watts doing reentry stuff, and there was a lot of anger, and I got to understand the role of you really have to understand the role of anger, and, you know, but also, you know, we have to take the direct impetus to call people out for and explain, but call people out for things that they're saying that are very ignorant, and also discuss about why, you know, why do we instantly marginalize this group that showed up? Maybe they're kooky, you know, but why do we instantly marginalize them and say they're paid protesters and say they're infiltrators and the police are all smiling and blah blah blah? And it's like, whoa, are you afraid of the fact that they're, you know, that they're African American and being somewhat not happy? You know?
I want to add something to what you're saying about somebody who's informed about what the Black Hebrew Israelites are about and their beliefs. They're not here to support this movement at all. They were here to preach their word, That was their agenda to be here. In nature, they were just divisive. It showed. You could literally feel the negative energy surrounding them when they were here. I myself encourage a lot of people to disperse, just to leave, because it's a distraction. It takes away from what we're trying to accomplish, and these people don't support the movement whatsoever. If they did support the movement, that would be great. I mean, we could embrace them, but they weren't here for that. You know, just plain and simple.
Just a direct response. Well, I think this is actually a whole nother conversation that would probably be great for General Assemblies about who does get a message here and what is considered part of this, and are there solid anti-oppression principles that have been publicized that people agree upon, so that when you have somebody come in that wants to put out their message and you're saying, oh, if that's really homophobic, that kind of goes against our larger principles, versus, oh, that's a really radical message against prisons that some people say is too radical, and we look at it and the larger whole says actually that does go with our principles, so we're not going to tell them to, I think that's a really amazing but whole huge conversation that probably is going to take us for a lot longer, but it should be continued. So I don't know how people want to jump off of that, but maybe a few more comments and then we can kind of talk about wrapping up. I saw 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
I just wanted to throw it out there if there was a chance to let's say if y'all are doing outreach door to door or something, to take folks from here and that, not just it there, but how to kind of organize that so that go.
So what I was just thinking from what everyone was saying, if we had a committee that was maybe split into two, where we have a committee here is addressing issues of racism and having people of color involved and welcoming to those people, and building with some of the people here that might not appreciate that so much. Have a committee here that does that, and then we have an outreach committee that actually goes out into the communities of pretty much, there has to be well-informed people and people that are comfortable going into some of those areas. If we could have that group go out and do the outreach and bring those people here, at least give them a chance to see this is a movement and it's embracing to other people, and have them meet with the committee that is here so they can kind of introduce them and welcome them in, so that way they won't feel that way they won't feel uncomfortable here, because people will come and if this is their first time, they might not feel totally comfortable, and especially people of color, they're not going to be really willing to just jump in like that. They need a little guidance. So if we could have those two committees kind of working together and really reaching out to people of color throughout the valley, and still educating people here and promoting diversity here within the core group of people that are going to be out here every night. So that way it shows more unity, and they feel more comfortable.
No, I don't need to speak Dorian. I was just pointing to him.
Yeah, and I think something I was hearing from you, and then kind of going off of you, I think it's really, really important that along with that there be a group of folks who are willing to. I mean, I think this can generally happen, but to create a culture where if people hear something that is particularly racially charged or offensive, to step up and really have a conversation with the person who said that. I know that a couple of us the other night we that you know that because like we're building a feminist, anti-racist, economic justice majority. So we were writing that in chalk, and a guy came up to us and was like, "I'm really offended by the word feminism," or like by the word feminist. And we had this like really, really intense, long conversation with him about why we used it. And so, but I think we like in that conversation, it was really challenging for me to enter that and be like, I really don't want to talk to this guy about like feminism because it's really hard and he's not going to listen to me because I'm a woman and young, and like that sucks, right? But in the end, I feel like it was a very productive conversation. And so I think just like, I know personally, and I don't think that this is something that we can ask, like force other folks to do, but like personally, I like feel really strongly that when I'm in this space that I need to like have the courage to step up and have that conversation with folks. Because I think people do, like with the whole Black Israelite situation, like regardless of like, I know it was really bad energy and I was there too, like trying to get folks, but I think I recognize it. Because people like kept on crowding in on the group, right, and like making it more tense because there was like no room to breathe. But like even in that, like I still heard people saying really fucked up things. And so just like being in that space and being like, okay, right now I'm trying to get people to move away, but we also need to have a conversation about why, like regardless of how you feel about the Black Israelites and their message and like why they're there, like what we need to be doing to step up and be like, okay, like you also just said that though, and like let's look at the bigger picture of why you said that and why it's not particularly helpful. So I think that's something, and I feel like having discussions like this is a really helpful part of that.